Oh, Amanda needs to, hold on, let me get Amanda in.
Do we have our secretary here?
No.
James, you're gonna,
I can go ahead and
Yeah.
just keep notes. if you
Okay.
like.
I would, that would be great.
Okay,
Okay.
Amanda, you should be able to turn on your video if you need to.
And okay, we're going to call our meeting to order for our Citizens Climate Advisory Committee for the date April 18th, 2022. It's 6:05 and we're here. I'm here at the Grace Night Conference Room. We're going to go ahead and we don't have a quorum here, so we're not going to be able to in-person quorum. So we're not going to be able to take any kind of votes right now. But we're going to call the meeting to order, and I'm going to just ask if there's any corrections or anything that needs to be added to our agenda. Okay, hearing none, we're going to go ahead and accept the agenda as presented to us. If you had a chance to look at the minutes from our March 28th meeting, is there any corrections to that, to those meeting minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll accept those. The fourth item on our agenda for today is an update on the UF power plant issues. You want to, in our last meeting, we talked about putting a letter together. Let's kind of continue that conversation if we can, and then see what we'd like to do on that.
Okay, seems like we, quite a small group tonight. But we discussed, putting that letter together. I think the next action, we don't have quorum, so we can't vote on this. On actually, I think transmitting the letter is what we have to vote on.
Correct.
So maybe in the meantime, until we can either call a second or a special session, which we didn't put together last time, or our next in-person meeting, we can agree to delegate the writing, the actual draft of the letter. Or we could discuss if that's the method forward. But if we delegate the letter to a CCAC member, then all we have to do is vote on transmitting the letter. But I guess since we have to vote anyway, we could probably review the language at the next group meeting. So any thoughts on how we want to go about that?
I've got one suggestion would be, we haven't had it in person since, I think, February. And we were trying to do it every 3 to 4 months. We could attempt to have an in-person meeting at the next meeting, table this item for that meeting. And then I can send out an email to the committee members asking if they're interested in having a draft letter to review for an in-person meeting. If we don't have that in-person meeting, then the letter sits.
Right.
If we're able to meet, we could discuss that letter.
Okay. I think it's timely that we at least get something drafted that everyone can review individually and make comments on, so that when we do finally have everyone in person, the letter is ready to transmit.
Do we know, do we know what we want to put in the letter? Did we come up with a general gist of what we wanted?
So I think we need to get the input from the rest of the committee, but I know it's going to revolve around that RMI study that was conducted, showing that there is an alternate option that could save the county money in the long term. not using the gas plant, rather, I believe it was solar. I don't want to speak to the study. I don't have it right in front of me.
So do you want to, I don't think we've come up with, as a group, a consensus of what we want to say. So I would suggest maybe if you wanted to draft some ideas for discussion, and then we could, at our next meeting, I don't think we're at a point where we want to put a draft together yet, but maybe have a discussion on the items that we wanted in the letter. And if we wanted, and that we want to do a letter.
So I can request to the members to provide me with the items they would like addressed in the letter. I can pull that together. And really what you would vote on is, are you comfortable with those items in the letter? Then you could say you're comfortable with the chair or a delegate of the committee writing the letter with those items addressed. And that would be the best approach. That way we get everyone's input. And then when you're all together, you can vote on which items you're comfortable with and which ones you aren't. And we can, make a motion on that based on your input. That would be my suggestion.
Okay, that'll fit the sunshine rule.
Yeah.
And that way it's going through you and everybody's input
Yeah.
is there.
Yeah, I support that. I do just want to iterate, that it is timely. So we do want to get this out. And on that, you mentioned that the UF met regarding the plan.
They had a meeting right after our meeting, and I think that they haven't necessarily changed anything that they're planning to do.
That's good. Then I think the point, maybe, and we should agree on this as well, but the intent behind the letter is maybe it's just to try to slow a decision until all options have been reviewed and make sure they have seen this alternates for this study.
Yeah, I think it does make sense for us to take a viewpoint and at least let them know what we think. Now, again, this has to go through the commissioners, right?
Yeah, so your letter would be recommending to the commissioners on the action you're asking for.
Right.
So then the commission would then send a letter to UF supporting your actions. Or they would forward your letter to UF. However, they'll make that decision. But the recommendation would be that our county commission voice these items of concern
Right.
on the issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Has the county commissioners discussed this at all in the past?
Only briefly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I think that sounds like a good path forward then. And yeah, I don't know, is it worth considering to our fellow CCAC members, a special session for this? We didn't get everyone to this meeting, so I'm not sure if we'll get everyone at the next one, but it's worth asking.
Good.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Amanda.
Did you guys say there was a report that says there are alternative pathways and that those should be considered? And if we got that, I don't remember it. Is that something that could be sent out again?
Yes, I think Ellen was she's probably on the call listening now too, a community member. I mentioned the study last time.
Okay.
Maybe it did not get sent around. We can make sure it does.
I thought it had, but I'll go back.
No, it could have. I can go back to Steve.
And yes, the study suggests that the county can save money using a solar plant instead of, I believe it was just a solar plant versus the current plan. But I don't want to misrepresent that.
Okay. Steve, did you send that out?
Yeah, in fact, Ellen just said in the text that they did go out.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can resend that again. Especially what I'll do is when I send an update to everyone in the next couple of days about our next meeting, I'll reconnect with that information.
Okay, very good. So to sum this up, what we're going to do is Steve's going to take, Steve's going to put together the options that we have, and then what we might feel comfortable asking the commissioners to forward to UF. So it's the items that we'd like to have addressed, and then we will discuss these items at our next meeting. And again, the product would be for us to send a letter to the commissioners asking them to address these issues with UF.
So it's unfortunate we can't do it today because the joint Water and Climate Policy Board meets Monday, and that's normally how we would go through. So since we can't do that, you all would probably send it to each commission. So the city and the county commission would both receive letters asking them. So then you'd get actions from both of them. That's
Okay.
normally what would happen through the Joint Water and Climate Policy Board, but because we won't meet that in time, and they won't meet again until July, so I'm pretty sure that would be too
okay.
late. We would, if the group wants to and supports the concept of sending a letter, we would send it to both commissions.
Okay. And the idea again is to ask them to ask UF to look at the other options that's available. Okay, any other discussions on that? All right. So our fifth item on the agenda is the greenhouse inventory follow-up discussion relating to the fleet vehicle, the concrete plant, and GRU energy initiatives, and the rebates, and along with the staff communicating their strategies. First, just looking at this, the greenhouse gas inventory discussion. Any comments on what we heard, and where you think any surprises? One of the things that really stood out to me was the concrete plant and how much impact it had. You know, we don't have a whole lot of industry, but it'd be interesting to know if that plant had been updated and if there was any kind of industrial incentives or anything. How modern is the plant? It just seemed like it was quite a bit in our inventory. That was just one thing that stood out to me.
No, I think I agree. But you know, updating industry is quite a process. So I think it'd be nice to hear from them. You know, from whoever. I think we asked that last time as well. But to hear about what is being done, how modern it is, are there avenues to just reduce? I mean, we're not going to get down to zero, I imagine, in concrete right now. And greener concrete is a fairly new industry. But it would be good just to hear where they're at, where they can go, and how the community of the city can help them.
Yeah. And I don't know if GRU has some things that it helps industry with in terms of reducing energy use in processes. I know I've worked with some industry in the past and just making them aware of certain things. And then there were certain incentives that we did on motors and things like that. But that it could maybe incentives and how we might be able to encourage them financially through some incentives that might be available in high efficiency motors and and maybe just what other processes that we could work with them on in terms of encouraging them to update some of their processes. I don't know if GRU has done an audit on that plan, or if you have a commercial industrial audit program where you might know if there had been some measures that had been suggested in the past to the plant.
Hey, John. So yeah, I can speak into that a little bit. So I discussed internally in GRU with various people, and we currently are not providing that plant with service. We're not supplying them with electricity, and we're also not supplying them with gas. And while there is certainly interest, from what I could gather, in supplying them with gas, that's not something we do. So we can't really speak towards encouragement from a GRU standpoint.
Where are they getting their power from?
That I don't know. I could speculate that it might be Clay Electric, but I can't say.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well.
Yeah, I have, DEP regulates it,
Mhm.
and I was able to pull up a report that I can provide to you all. I just got it, found it today. But it does describe their kilns. They've got 2 of them that they burn, that they create the concrete.
Mhm.
And it also provides a list of their, how much they're emitting in terms of carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, all those kinds of things. So I can provide that to you all.
Does it rate it according to average or some kind of benchmark?
They rate it compared to a compliance level. So
Okay.
they're, as long as they're under a certain compliance threshold, then they're not violating their permit. If they
Okay.
exceed that level, then
Did-
DEP will come and
Do
determine
you
why.
know if they exceeded it?
There was, I have to look, I did notice there was something they exceeded in their last cycle. So
Okay.
the county will get a report that we'll review on an annual basis that goes along with the DEP permit. So that is something I can provide to you all before the next meeting.
Sure, yeah, I'm curious who's setting that compliance, to DEP.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But then even then, I mean, we're looking at trying to get to 0, right? So anything above that is, we're looking to find ways to get to, to reduce to, so. Okay, no, please share, that'd be great.
Okay. And I'll check, see if we can check also to verify who their power company is.
Okay, whether that's Duke or Clay, it's gonna be one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like we really need to speak with someone from there to hear more about this, because they're gonna be the industry expert. They're gonna, I imagine, be familiar with ways to reduce carbon in the process, and if it is viable for their current operations. I don't know who that is.
We can possibly follow up with their consultant that does the monitoring too.
Okay. Now the other item was the fleet vehicles. I saw something that came on that.
Yeah, I think we've updated you on the fleet vehicles and the GRU energy incentives. We haven't really talked about the staff commuting strategies. We're still elaborating on that with a consultant at the county level. And it looks like we're going to continue to promote a commuting hybrid workforce and environment. So we should see a significant reduction in fleet miles or staff miles driven based on this new approach that we've basically been doing since the beginning of COVID. So that information, I don't have anything that I can provide yet because we're going through that process. We're interviewing staff now to determine who can and who cannot work from home and how many days a week is optimal. And we'll be able to come back with that information. And I do want to note just on this topic in general, this is going to be presented, the greenhouse gas inventory is going to be presented to the Joint Water and Climate Policy Board on Monday morning.
Okay.
At
And
the same kind of presentation they gave you all.
okay, what time is that meeting?
That's at 9:30.
Okay,
And it's at City Hall. But you should be able to watch it on Zoom or, whatever the city system has.
Do you mind sending that out in the notes?
Yeah, I can do that.
I saw on that list with the fleet, this is great, information, the bull ties list you provided. But I'm just curious if there's an actual plan to look at on how they're looking to reduce. So, as it says, we have direction in our comp plan to evaluate vehicle size and usage prior to replacement and ensure the most appropriately sized vehicles are being purchased. But it doesn't necessarily say if there's a commitment to EVs. There is a good number of EVs in the smaller vehicle usage, which is great. But I'm just curious about that. And then also that they're, the largest user of fuel is hauling solid waste. So what's being used there, and is there an opportunity, I don't know how many the vehicles are, but is there an opportunity to replace those with EVs?
I know they're looking at that. One of the things we do supplement regular diesel is the biodiesel fuel. So we're using reclaimed oils to help offset some of that biodiesel or the regular diesel with biodiesel in our fleet. We do that on a regular basis.
That's
I
a great,
can't answer
that's a
yet.
great
Yeah.
transition fuel.
Yep.
Mhm.
And it's waste fuel product, so it's can be used.
Steve, how far out do you project your vehicles? So we just bought some, so it's like a 10-year cycle?
Yeah, so we immediately enter in, I think it's 5 to 10, depending on the vehicle type. And with the expectation that at a certain point, we'll be replacing that vehicle.
Okay.
And it's often based on the amount of miles you put into it, the type of vehicle it is. It has depends on the expected life expectancy. But typically, when we think it's at a point where it's starting to deteriorate in its ability to be efficient or functional
And
in
you-
terms of its repair, we'll replace that vehicle.
And you do this by groups, right?
Yes,
Okay, by department.
yes.
So with that projection model in place, then does that mean there's an opportunity here to project when a certain, what percentage of the fleet can get to EV?
I'm not the one that can probably answer that question, but I do know that they're looking closely, and it's probably a market-driven item, what's going to be available. But it's changing quickly, and I suspect we will see a major shift in the next few years.
Especially on the heavy duty side.
But if you have anything you'd like me to relate back to our fleet manager, I'll be glad to do that.
All right, and the information that was provided, I thought was very good. I mean, at least they're considering it and looking at it and looking at options that are both. I think the key to that was that the grant, the money that was received was based on using a certain type of vehicle. So it was sort of driven by that money assistance that they got.
Obviously the second biggest part of our fleet is our, fire rescue, which is another, large vehicle type fleet. It could be a challenge.
Okay, and it was my understanding that right now GRU does not have energy initiatives or rebates, I should say. Is that right? Justin, that's you guys don't have any commercial, industrial, or residential rebates at this time, right?
There are some, so there's no electric rebates or incentives, but I did send on a response from Jim Gilmartin, and there are, let me see here, I'm reading through that email that that Steve forwarded to everybody. There is some assistance for low income households
Right.
for replacing inefficient appliances. Let's see, there's also, looks like through the LEAP program, there's the ability to install low flow toilets. We've got net metering for solar. It gives customers the opportunity to offset some of their electric consumption. And then there's natural gas appliance rebates, which are still out there as well.
Okay.
But it looks like everything that he mentioned.
Justin, do you have?
Yeah, I don't see anything.
Do you have electric?
Go ahead, John.
The appliances is strictly for gas?
No, reading through this response, it looks like, sorry, I'm getting a lot of feedback here. It looks like there's some ability for low income households to upgrade some of their major electric appliances, such as HVAC, your water heater, and then as well as even household insulation and duct sealing.
All right, I'm gonna look into this a little. How good is that participation? I mean, it depends on how you market it. And is that a program that's well used right now with you guys? And
yeah, that I can't speak to, but I can look into it.
Okay, yeah, I think that's great. That would be a great, because if you're having if you're paying a disproportionate part of your money toward electric, and I understand that we're going to get another rate hike, it's very important to use your electricity very efficiently. And if we could help with the billing envelope and things like that, it would be really great. And you know, any kind of marketing we could do of that kind of program would really help, I think.
I agree with you, John. And also
Yeah.
that, and I'm wondering, who falls into that group that's eligible? And if, there's opportunities if we can raise this eligibility, include more of the community. So energy efficiency goes a long way to reducing y'all's energy demand. Can go a long way, I should say.
Okay. Any other discussions on these items? Well, thank you everybody for and for sending this information in. I thought it was very good. Thank you, Steve, for getting that to us. And if we could just follow up on a few of those loose ends that we talked about.
Okay, so John, I'll look into who falls into that group and as well as what level of participation there is in that program.
Okay, and how's it marketed? How do they get the information out? All right. Steve, anything else on this?
No.
Okay.
A related question to incentives that I don't have the answer in front of me, but do we know if Gainesville or Alachua County is using any money from the federal infrastructure bill to install EV charging stations?
I do not know that. I'm not aware that the county is. The city might be.
Okay. So I know that's as far as EVs go, that's what's included. And it's something that
I'm not aware of that.
okay. Because if that money's not being looked at, we should definitely consider it.
Okay. All right, we're at the staff update, item 6.
All right, I'll kick it off then. From the county side and the city, we have the Joint Water and Climate Policy Board meeting on Monday, being hosted by the city. And we're gonna have 3 presentations, 2 on vulnerability analysis, 1 on the county's kind of large scale vulnerability analysis. We got the first qualitative information back from our consultant. So they're gonna give an update on that. And the city is gonna give an update on their vulnerability analysis, which is related to the floodwise grant funds, which the county is doing as well, but the city's completed there. So they're gonna give an update on that. And then we're gonna give an update on the survey that is going out. And I know we sent it out to you all to kind of pilot it, and I appreciate everyone who took the time to take that. And that should probably be, we should be seeing that release this week. So we'll get an update as well on that from the consultants. So we've got all 3 of those presentations on Monday. Again, that's at 9:30 to 11. And other than that, the next meeting for the Joint Water and Climate Policy Board, I believe, will be in July. They're gonna not do June or August. So that will be the meeting where we're giving update on our climate strategies overall, at least from the county side, hopefully from the city as well. And we'll kind of give that annual update of where we are, what are some of the strategies are. That'll probably be something I'd like to talk with you all about as well before that meeting. So maybe at the next meeting in May or June, we could kind of strategize about some of the items you all would like to see and when that would be accomplished in the year ahead. So it's kind of following where Megan left off in her presentation at the last meeting with the Joint Water and Climate Board, where she kind of laid out what's been done and what really needs to happen moving forward. So we'd like to do that. Also, because they won't meet in August, they will probably also be selecting the new members. You know, there are 3 or 4 members every year that there's an opportunity to get either reelected or have new members join. So I will let, I don't have it on top of my list who those members are that are at the end of their term, but I'll communicate with them. And then I'll send out a press release to see if there's any interest from the outside on possibly joining the team. Even though we'll do the selection in July, we probably will keep the members on until the end of August, and then the new members will start in August. So I just wanted to give that heads up. It is a little bit earlier because of their timing of their meetings.
Okay.
Other than that, you know, our staff level climate planning group meets later this week, and we're going to talk about some of these strategies about ongoing efforts to get our website up on the climate action plan, which will have a lot of the information you all put together. We want to start making a format to get that going. I just wanted to remind everyone again about the summaries that Steve Mulkey put together, and I sent those out on the IPCC assessment report that just came out on climate, which he did a nice job of summarizing. So hopefully everyone got a chance to see that. But that's all I've got.
Okay. Any questions for Steve?
Yeah, I have a question, Steve. Does that mean in the May meeting, you are going to give us an update on the sections that are being built out in the climate action plan?
Yeah, I'll give an update. I've still got that as my plan is to do that in May, as well as maybe bring up some other concepts that we're working on.
Oh, yeah.
As well as an update on how we're pulling together the website information, which is still lagging behind a little bit. So yeah, I hope to do that. Yep.
Okay. Steve, where is the website right now? Is it?
It's in a concept mode. Yeah,
Okay.
so I think what we're looking at, well, there's 2 things we have. And we have monday.com, which is a platform that allows you to pull information in, and we have IT staff that have either contractors that can assist us with that or their skills to use that as a platform for the information. However, we're getting possibly having an interview with someone who has access to climate information that is non-proprietary. So we're finding out from them what kind of information that is, what that looks like, and whether that's something we can use as well. And there's a meeting set up in a couple of weeks with both city and county staff on that.
Okay,
So I don't really have the answer. That's how early we are in that process.
okay. Is there like an outline yet on what might be there?
The outline is actually what you all provided in terms of those categories of concerns, like high temperatures, flooding
Okay.
events, extreme weather, droughts. All those aspects will be integrated. And then the idea is that you would click on that, get an idea of why it's a concern, how it's, how climate change is affecting that, what the concerns are to human and environmental situations, and then what the city and the county are doing about it or not doing about it. So it should be a whole range of information, and the concept should be live fed. So every time we get new information, we'd be updating it. So it would be kind of like a dashboard concept where you have these things you would click on based on your interest, whether you're, high temperatures at night, you want to know how we're handling that. What are we doing about it? That's, this is the issue that it causes, these are the stresses on your mental health, your lack of sleep, or even worse. And what are we doing about it? Are we trying to weatherize homes to give people, trying to lower their bills? All those kinds of things will be integrated into that. And we're using the information we received from you all, as well as our initial outline that Amanda was talking about, where we identified issues as well. So right now, we're trying to figure out what the best way to accomplish that is, and that's what I'm hoping to talk with staff about later this week.
Okay.
Mhm.
And can we also, and we've talked about this in our group, making sure that we identify other organizations that are working on these things. It's so important to bring them in. And at some point, I'd like to talk about our empowerment program that we are working on. But I think it's very important to identify other organizations that are doing climate work. All right, any other comments or questions for Steve? All right, Tom, anything from the city?
Well, I just wanted to follow up on last week. I did send some other information for you guys earlier, but there was a question about the RTS busing, and they got some funding there, and that they weren't looking, and they were buying diesel buses and not EV buses. Apparently, my understanding, and again, it's just an understanding, is that there's a limited time they have to spend this federal money. And so, they can't get, an EV bus order done in that time frame. And their goal is also just to replace the oldest buses in the fleet, which are the ones that are, the most polluting, the most least fuel efficient, and swapping those out with this funding. And then, exploring EV in the future. But there was just a limited time that they had to spend these dollars. And they couldn't get that order for an EV done in that time frame. And
Okay.
build all the accessory equipment that would have to come with the EV vehicle.
So, all right, Tom, how often do they order these buses, and is there another window at some other time? Do you know?
I mean, I'm sure like any fleet, they have a certain amount that get phased out, but this was an opportunity for them to just get a bulk of the oldest ones off the fleet, in one
Right.
shot. But I'm sure like anything else, they have, replace a certain amount of vehicles every year. And on a separate note, I did a conference call, I don't know, about 6 months ago about EV busing. And it's a little more complicated because the way the EV busings have to charge, and can they run all day, or if they only run for 5 hours, then you have to have another EV bus come in and finish that route. So sometimes you need twice as many buses, or at least the percentage you know, I'm not saying twice as many, but because of the way the charge doesn't last all day, you have to stagger the use of the buses within a time frame so it's appropriate. So it's a complicated issue getting the EV buses. So I don't think they've tackled that entire discussion yet at this point.
Okay, so what does that discussion look like? And is a plan going to be put together? It's definitely complicated.
Yeah.
But
No,
that
I
needs-
think it'd be better to have somebody from RTS present than necessarily me, you know, sort of secondhand information here. So I think it might be better to have somebody from RTS present what their sustainability programs are.
No, I think that'd be great. Yeah, I mean, I know we're working through you, but
Right.
these are the questions I guess we think about.
I mean, I can answer, you know, questions within a certain scope, but, you know, I
Sure.
limited. We also had some questions about our own city fleet. I wasn't able to get a response back on that one yet, but I'll still keep working on it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Question in the chat. Do you happen to know the expected lifetime of the new buses?
You asking me?
I am, if you know.
No, I do not.
Okay, that's fine. We can find out. Roberto, we can throw that in our questions for the RTS.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it would be really, Tom, if we could ask someone from RTS to present their sustainability plan, that would really kind of give us an idea of the scope and the length of time to move to a more greener mode of transportation. I do know that it is complicated, and well, I don't want to say it is something that requires a whole system,
Right.
and so it's something that has to be phased in.
Yeah. Like I said, for this purchase, I just don't think they could get what they needed to accomplish for that. But I have a contact over at RTS, and I'll see if they would be willing to present at some future meeting.
Okay, that would be good. And maybe there are cities that started this, and maybe looking at some of the programs that maybe some other cities that have done this in the past.
Right. I'll track back. Name of the city I had the presentation on, I just, for some reason, is escaping me. But it was very interesting how they tracked the, you know, the way they staggered the bus usage, because sometimes you swap buses anyway when they're en route. Sometimes you swap drivers, sometimes you swap the whole bus. You know, it depends on what's more efficient at the time. And so sometimes if it's a new bus coming on, that's not a problem, you know, because it would be fully charged, you know. So it's more than what I know about.
Right.
Sure, and so as soon as we can have this call, that would be great, because the longevity of these buses and the timeline to implement whatever new system is appropriate will take some time, and so it'll just be good to figure out what that is and when we can get that in place. So
I'll reach out to the contact, you know, if that's something they can present on and how soon they could present on it, whether that's something, you know, they could do in a month or a few weeks, or if that's something that it would take them a few months to put together.
And Tom, we're not so much interested in them putting something new together. I'm sure that they have some kind of plan right now, and whatever they have, you know, we don't want to cause any extra work.
I just meant presenting on their plan. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Right.
And thank you so much for that information. It's been great.
All right. You're welcome.
All right. Justin, anything on GRU?
I don't have any additional updates, but I'm more than happy to take any questions or look into anything that there's interest in.
Okay. Any questions for Justin for GRU?
No questions. I just visited the biomass plant this morning though. So, but I was just taking care of their garbage.
Okay.
Uh,
Eh, All right. No questions for GRU? Okay. Suggestions for items on our next meeting.
Okay, so I think, hearing from, if it's possible, we'll see what their timeline is, but from RTS.
Okay.
Will be important to be able, and maybe will the fleet manager be appropriate?
For county fleet?
Yeah, to have an understanding of that procurement process, and then if there is a way to project when we, how long it will take to transition the whole fleet to EVs, if the whole fleet can be transitioned. As you mentioned, we know that the EV landscape is changing rapidly. So of course, right now, we might not be able to say the heavier vehicles. We might not have options for the heavier vehicles, but those might come down the road. So I don't expect an answer on those. But for everything else, I think we can maybe have an answer or something, some way to project. So we also know how we're progressing. So the fleet, city buses, and then this letter regarding UF's gas plan.
And that will determine, I'll also ask if we can meet in person. That'll be a critical part of our ability to get the letter done.
We've got to meet in person. And then in the meantime, as you mentioned the plan earlier, we'll send out some items and we can contribute, we can email you for people to consider. That would go into that letter. And we'll make sure that study is sent out again, just in case. Okay, and then one thing that came up last time that I think we need to decide on a path forward for is the county climate director position, whatever that's going to be. So that group of citizens has had meetings with other cities to kind of hear, get advice on the barriers they've faced, what's worked well, et cetera. I think Ellen could probably come on.
And that was the city climate director. Yeah.
Yes. Excuse me, city climate director. And so need to look, what's the next steps there? Maybe that's compiling that advice and then giving a proposal just like this letter to city and county, or excuse me, in this case, just the city.
Yeah.
But we need to figure that out as well.
And that, yeah, that's something we can do if you have a quorum. Yeah. Okay.
Any other suggestions? I would like to suggest we have a presentation from the Environmental Climate Justice Committee from NAACP, who just got the grant from DOE LEAP program for the empowerment program. It's a grant for technical assistance for working in communities that have been underrepresented in terms of the green movement. So they recently and I'm part of that committee, recently got one of 22 communities in the United States that got the technical grant for technical assistance. And we're part of a joint group composed of GRU, the city, the county, NAACP, some community weatherization groups, all work together to put this grant proposal together. And we are the only one in Florida that got it. So I think it's really good. One of the things that stood out to me in putting this grant proposal together was we basically put a plan together. And the reason I'd like it presented, it kind of shows what an overall plan looks like. And that's kind of like what we're positioned to do also. But what really stood out was the ability to work with different organizations within the community. So I think in maybe, Steve, if we could reach out to someone, I don't want to do it. I think that some of the grant writers that put that together would be more than willing to present that to us.
I can do that. I can reach out to,
Mary?
to a few of them that were involved. Yeah.
Okay. Any other suggestions for meetings? Topics.
Question for you. You mentioned that you'd like to identify other organizations working in climate. So how would you like to go about that? What's your thoughts? Maybe we just compile what we know and send to Steve separately, or
Yeah,
put out a community survey.
yeah. If we want to suggest organizations, I know that in working through the Environmental Justice Committee with NAACP, we have quite a few people that participate, groups that participate. League of Women Voters is one that's really active on this UF item. And so maybe if we can suggest different ones and send them to Steve. And Steve, I know you might know some. And if the idea is to work in conjunction with the organizations that are already doing things.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to have, an active list of especially the local organizations that are
Right.
involved. And I know we have representatives watching today as well that are part of many of those. So it's helpful to have that. That way, it's something that we could even have as an email, availability. We can send information out to them as well in a more formal way,
Right.
as opposed to just having, citizen lists. So I'll be glad to do that, and we can gather information from all of you. I'll include that in some of the questions I'll ask of you all in my next update.
Okay, great. Amanda, any updates on our waste and any of the things that came out of your week that you did your work?
No, I don't think so. The county just launched the Zero Waste Grant Program that may have been renamed, unfortunately. But for the most part, that's a really amazing program for our community to have. So that's real exciting. That's something we worked on last year when we were doing our stakeholder feedback, when the plan was getting adopted.
Okay, and you said it has been renamed?
I think so. Yes.
Okay. All right, any other items? So we're down to basically recapping and identifying our action items. Steve, you want to read?
Yeah,
some of
I'll
those things?
try to do that. So what I've got for action items, I'll resend the UF report out so everyone gets that again in preparation for meeting next month. I'll get information out on the cement plan as well as see who's available to talk on that item. I'll send a link on the Joint Water and Climate Policy Board meeting for Monday so people can know how to watch that. Tom, I've got you down for RTS Sustainability Program presentation. If you want to reach out to RTS to see if they would be available to give a presentation in May. Justin, I've got you.
What's the date on that?
The date is May 15th.
Okay,
Obviously, if that doesn't work, we'd be looking at June. And that's somewhere around the same date. It'll be that Monday, third Monday of the month. Justin, I've got you down for GRU. Is it a rebate incentive information? Is it a follow-up? I don't have my notes very clear on that, but there was something you were gonna relay back to the group.
Yeah, so it was, go ahead, John.
No, go ahead. You give me what you said, Justin. Understand.
Okay.
What you understand.
Yeah, so I've got 3 questions here that I wrote down in terms of the low income customer assistance program for upgrading several kind of high electricity use appliances. So questions and with respect to that program were kind of who qualifies for it? How much participation is there? So I was thinking of looking into maybe 2021 numbers to see how many customers participated. And then the last one was, how is it marketed? So I know there's info on the website, but I'll look into whether or not there's marketing that occurs outside of that.
Yeah.
May I add one thing to it, if you're able, if the data is available, costs, costs for this program.
To the
So
customer.
costs on, yeah, on
Sure.
to the customer, or to GRU, or both?
I would think, well, actually anything you have, just understanding the impact of the program, because it does reduce energy costs or energy usage rather. So I'm wondering what that kind of return is. We're investing this much in energy efficiency or these upgrades, and then, how much energy is that saving?
Okay, so if I perhaps reached out to ask about participation in 2021, kind of the costs associated with the assistance that was provided in 2021, would that be adequate?
Yeah, I think, whatever year has the most accurate data should be fine.
Okay.
Because, I'm sure they have, I'm sure y'all have measures of success for this program in place, but that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Okay.
I hope that's clear.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to clarify, the next meeting is May 16th. So thanks, Janice, for pointing that out. I think that was, yeah. I've got Tom and we're going to look into seeing if we can find out whether any federal funds were used for EV station, buying EV station, so we can see if any money were used for that. I'm going to send out in my next update to CCAC whether we can have in-person meeting, and the items that we have listed, it includes an update on the outline, possible RTS presentation, county fleet program manager, see if there's any ability for him to join us on a transition to EV, the UF letter draft. And so I'll work on providing some information there. Any updates on the city climate director position, and a presentation on the NAACP ECJC presentation on the LEAP empowerment
Okay.
grant.
All right. And I see that we had some comments regarding listing of organizations that are actively involved with environmental issues. And yes, if you have something, please send it to Steve, and we would love to put together that group. I know that there's and then what particular issues that they're working on right now would be great.
You want to open it up to the public?
Yes. So at this time, we're going to open it up to public comment.
So if you can raise your hand down at the bottom, there's the raise hand function. If you have something you'd like to say, I can. All right, Ellen, I see you. I'm gonna allow you to talk.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ellen.
Thank you very much, Stephen, and thank everyone on the committee and the staff folks who are here, and Justin, nice to meet you. Really appreciate the consistency that you're keeping these conversations going. I do want to make a very strong pitch for Professor Hal Wanless, who is a very courageous guy. You may or may not have heard of him. He is a geologist who's been singing the sea level rise song for over 35 years. And he has a really very concise, very calm presentation manner where he talks about why South Florida and Florida in particular have it worse than anywhere else on planet Earth. There are a couple of geological things happening on the planet that are not getting press. And he's a professor of mine, and I was very struck with my last conversation a week or so ago with him, that he pulled himself out of the regional compact, the Southeast Regional Compact of the 4 counties, because they would not use the science he was providing them because it was too terrifying. I think we should hear it because he says they're coming north. They're coming north in hordes, and Gainesville is one of the destinations. So I think it'd be helpful to have the science behind his predictions, and he could do this in a 10 or 15-minute presentation. So I really would like to throw that out to the leadership and to Steve to consider inviting him on Zoom to do that. Thank you very much. I appreciate the chance to speak.
Thank you, Ellen. And we did, did you get that name, Steve?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Alan, you provided that information in the chat as well to a link. So that's included there. And I just, Roberta should be able to speak.
Hi, yes, thank you. I just wanted to bring up the GRU rebates again. GRU is currently providing up to $1,600 for gas appliance rebates. 88% of those go to developers on the western, actually beyond the border. Most of it goes to the border, beyond the Gainesville border. You know, if we're going to be moving off of fossil fuel, we have to do it everywhere. We have to electrify everything, all of our machines. And so I don't believe we should be subsidizing, you know, fancy gas appliances. And they're building infrastructure out there, which is going to, you know, includes capital costs that are going to be perhaps stranded assets as we move away from fossil fuel. So we've been the league has taken a lead on this. They've been asking GRU to eliminate that rebate. We're not asking GRU to eliminate gas to homes. We're just asking to stop the rebate and to stop sending out you know, mailers and advertising to people, makes them think that gas is safe and affordable and clean energy, and it's not. So I would like to see the CCAC maybe look into this a little bit more and eventually take a position against it, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta.
Janice. Want me to have Janice speak now?
Yes, go ahead, Jan.
Hi, folks. Thanks a lot for your service on this commission. I know it's very time consuming and you all have busy lives. I wanted to go back to the program for appliances, for high energy appliances. As we all know, renters kind of get caught in the middle on things like this because they don't actually own the property. They don't actually own the appliances, but they're the ones paying the high utility bills. So I wonder if we could find out if there's any way of reaching out to high usage appliances and connecting with the owners of the property to help those renters get a better appliance that is more energy efficient and more fiscally, more financially affordable to them. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Janice. Well, one of the things that we asked GRU to do is to kind of report back to us on how they market their appliance program. It was told that they had a appliance rebate program for low income people. And I just want to understand how it's being marketed and what the details are. So we have asked for that information.
As well as who falls into that. So I hope that will include if renters fall in. What those qualifications are to be eligible.
Okay, anybody else there?
I think that's everyone.
Okay, well, as always, we really thank you, public, for your input. It's always important, and I know all of you, and I know that this is just something that's dear to your hearts as well as to ours. So again, please, we thank you for your input, and please continue, and we will definitely follow up on all the things that you suggested, because we're actually here for all of us, for the public. And I know that there's a lot of organizations out there that are doing a lot of great things, and we want to collectively work together for our community and for our environment in general, because we just can't separate it, because the environment is a continuous situation, and we all have to work together to make sure that all this comes together and everyone can have a better and safer place for not just now, but for the future. And thank you a lot. All right, if there is no other comments or questions, Steve, we can end our meeting early.
All right. I will stop the